Hey, this is a piece of shit doo-doo ass show, and if you like it, I'm gonna find you and tackle you through a sheet of glass. It's maybe the biggest letdown I've experienced in my years of being an anime fan, and I've been complaining about it for 5 years now. Yes, I watched it only after season 2 dropped. I was a bit late to the party. Now, before I get into shitting on this forever, let me talk about the good things about this show. I'm not so unfair as to claim everything is awful about it. Spoiler warnings for all of Tokyo Ghoul, but if you really try and complain about that 6 years post-release, I hope you grow old enough to explain to the local kids what it's like to live alone and unloved for your whole life. Anyways, the visuals are fucking cool. In scenes where everything is hella busy and extra, it looks gorgeous, but in even simpler scenes like this one, it's able to use its art to make stuff pop. Besides that, the soundtrack is alright. Everyone knows the classic OP1, cue Spider-Man meme. It also has one of my favorite voice actors, Mamoru Miyano. What else has he done in the past? Well... yeah, that's right. Light Yagami, Okabe Rintaro, and Rin Matsuoka have the same voice actor. Talk about range, huh? He voices probably my favorite character, and the only one in the show who has a personality that isn't baby or goth kid, Shu Tsukiyama. His personality is being obsessed with the bloody napkin, I'd say, and wanting to eat the main character, but that's kind of already been done. And that's about it. It has nice visuals, a let's say memorable OST, some good fights, some cool villains, and that's about it. And now, for everything else.
No kidding.
First of all, let me preface this by saying the manga is alright. I'm talking about strictly the anime here. Let's start with the main boy, Kaneki-ken. Just look at that cinnamon roll. What a good boy. I hope nothing bad will happen to him. And that's basically what happens to the main cast. The show is just torture porn, no cock, no ball. It gives you all these characters that it doesn't even do a good job of making you attached to, before throwing them into one fucked situation after the other. Honestly, it's insane that this show can't even achieve for its main character the emotion that I was able to feel for Nina and Alexander, two side characters. You can argue that I felt worse for them because it's two characters where Kaneki is just one, but I'd argue that's not the case. Regardless, I didn't care about this fucking character either compared to just Nina, and she had one of the better scenes in the show. Honestly, the most interesting characters in Season 1 are probably Kuryo Mano and Shu. The main villain of the first season, Jason, just felt like a big idiot. I guarantee you that he breathed through his mouth. My biggest problem with him is that he feels less like the main big bad villain, and a lot closer to a street thug who's way too into S&M. In the end, Kaneki goes from Cinnamon Roll to Goth Kid, completing the metamorphosis from one Tokyo Ghoul character archetype to the other, and then just beats the shit out of Jason. And then the people who went to save him get him out, and they all go home, and wait, what was that? You're telling me, instead of going home with his loved ones, this thing which he wanted the whole time, he joins the group that tortured him for no reason, and they let him in with no questions asked?
BS.
Alright, on to Season 2, I guess. This is the real stinker here, so I'm gonna blow past some shit because I want to hop right into the thing that really bugs me about this show. So let me introduce some key major players in Season 2. We've got the Owl. She's boring and an evil for the sake of it character. We've got Juzo, who really breaks the mold and is actually both character archetypes of Tokyo Ghoul at the same time, a goth cinnamon roll. Crazy. He looks alright to be fair, but his personality is what you'd get if Jared Leto's damage tattoo from Suicide Squad was its own character. Honestly, I have a solid guess about what's underneath those bangs. Oh, but there are these really cool twin one-eyed ghouls, and since they stressed that these one-eyed ghouls are super rare, I'm sure they'll play a huge role, and oh, Juzo killed one of them off, and the other doesn't come back for the rest of the season? And this is what bugs me most about the show. They introduce a cool character or characters, and then they either die randomly instead of developing them more, they don't come back after showing up the first time, or both. The random shock value from these deaths isn't even really that, and does more in hindering world building of the show than anything else. And the peak of me being mad at this was the introduction of this buff Fu Manchu looking ass bitch. His name is Matasaka, and he just fucking absolutely destroys Kaneki, OPMs the shit out of him, and then he leaves, and doesn't come back for the rest of the season. Tokyo Ghoul just loves to make these strong-ass characters and then throw them away for no reason instead of using them to either world build or maybe use as a hurdle. But don't worry, he shows up later on in the series and gets the jobber treatment by Lord God Emperor Virgin Slayer Arima. So instead of using him as a point of direct progress for Kaneki, he was just fed to Alpha Chad Arima. Matasaka? More like
Motherfucker.
the anime is either way too extra or just too dry, and the worst part is that we know the creator can write good characters. Rize gets better development later on, she was great, and I mentioned how I thought Mata was a great villain, but it feels like in all of these cases, he just didn't know what to do with these characters after they served their purpose. Shu just kind of became an overshadowed weirdo who was brought back up here and there for power scaling purposes. Mato dies, so to be fair I can't really say much there, and Rize gets farmed and turned into a dragon? Weird. The later seasons show why the twins were one-eyed ghouls, as well as more stuff with Rize, clowns get involved, and I don't want to spoil too much specifically, however, I believe that the mistakes of the previous seasons being solved a few seasons later don't justify those mistakes being made in the first place. Especially because there was absolutely no foreshadowing or anything showing that these elements of the story would be revisited in the future. Basically, what I'm saying is, Tokyo Ghoul has a story, but it doesn't know how to tell it. It just doesn't know how to leave questions unanswered without dropping the point entirely and just picking it up seemingly randomly later. It can't manage its characters, and calling its story fluid and cohesive is like calling isekai a unique and interesting genre. If I had to leave this off with a bit of advice, it'd be read the manga. It's better, genuinely, and if you don't like reading, grow up.